Here's the thought not many of us consider. Your ministry strategy may not be broken. You might just haven't stuck with it long enough to know if it could work. I mean, think about this. I have coached now hundreds of pastors, and this pressure pattern I see over and over and over again. Growth-minded pastors, they decide to implement a new ministry model, a program, or a strategy only to bail on it after, a month because, quote unquote, it's not working. This is, it's almost like the opposite problem that most churches have. Like, so many pastors are afraid or unwilling to change anything, right? On the other hand, changing things too frequently or not sticking with that change long enough, it creates an entirely different kind of chaos. This is the wrong kind of innovation, right? If we were to call this innovation, it's the wrong kind. Like, until you recognize it, your church is just going to stay stuck in this same cycle of excitement, frustration, and then pivoting, one of our favorite words since 2020. So today, I want to help you break out of that cycle because intentionality, right, not constant change, is what's going to create movement in your ministry model, in your community, in the kingdom, and through your church. So let's talk about this for a minute. Most pastors don't talk about this a lot, but kind of behind the scenes, and I know because I was a lead pastor for 13 years, you feel a constant kind of unspoken pressure to fix things fast. That's the key word, right? It isn't that you just feel pressure to, make some things better. When you find something that's not working, something that's broken, something that could be better, and by the way, you feel this pressure because you're not the only one noticing. People are talking, they're emailing you, they're grabbing you after service. Hey, can I give you some feedback, right? So you want to fix things fast. Like when a Sunday dip happens, or a volunteer complains about a specific problem, issue, a staff member is frustrated, or this is a big one, like a family leaves, maybe someone that you're close to leaves. And before you know it, right, you are rewriting the playbook again. Like you introduce a brand new discipleship pathway, and then 2 weeks later, you're adjusting it. A month later, you're abandoning it. And you're trying something new. Why? Well, because the last idea wasn't working. Like, I know pastors who've changed their mission statement several times within a year. If you're kind of more of a reactive change agent, and I don't mean that negatively, I love that you are a change agent. I love that you are willing to change rather than just be stagnant and allow it to die. I love that. But if you are kind of more of a reactive change agent, just consider this. What if your new model or strategy didn't fail? What if you just didn't give it enough time to prove that it could work? I see this all the time. Churches that kind of tweak themselves into chaos. And this is terrible, but you can tweak your way even to death, by not changing anything. And especially as because the world around you is going to change, your community is going to change. And so all churches that are dying because they just didn't change anything. This is what causes death. At the same time, changing too much, not giving it enough time to solidify and really be tested, pressure tested, can cause the same kind of death in a very different way. Like churches, they just cannot thrive in constant ministry change whiplash. The real heartbreaking part of this is that, you're not changing, you're not doing any of this because you're unwise or you're not committed. I think a lot of times you're doing it because you care very deeply. I think the people who are unwilling to change are the ones who are unwise and uncommitted. If you're a change agent, if you're a change-oriented leader, you care deeply, and you care about the people, you care about growth, you care about the mission, the kingdom. You care about all of it a lot, and you're willing to do anything to help it maximize its potential, right? The thought of something not being good that could be drives you crazy, and you're willing to change it, but maybe a little too much. And the reason that you're changing things, you're doing it because that pressure that you feel, it does demand urgency, right? It feels so urgent. However, that pressure, it also distorts kind of our ability to evaluate. And here's what that means, right? Most pastors, we end up now, because of this, we abandon good ideas far before those ideas could ever really produce the good fruit. I mean, think of it this way. It's like, planting something, and I'm terrible at this, but planting a new tree or a flower bed or whatever, and, you water it for a day and a half and you go, well, it's not working, and you dig it up. Well, of course it's not working. It hasn't had enough time to do it. This whole thing, this idea came to me for two reasons. One, like a lot of you, I'm a change agent. I thrive in change. I get really bored if things aren't changing, which means at times I can change too frequently and change too much. That's part of it. It's just personal for me. But I also noticed something that was very intriguing. It was like a lesson for me. I have a friend. His name's Lewis. Lewis is a bodybuilder. Now, I say he's a friend. I mean, he's a lot younger than I am, so we're not like close, okay? But, we see each other at the gym, on the street. We're going to high five, talk for a second, what's going on. I met Lewis when I was a lead pastor at Woodstock City Church, and he was all-state wide receiver at a local high school. Went to college to play football. Decided, though, that he enjoyed working out and lifting more than he did playing football. And you could see that in high school. I don't remember seeing many kids who were 17, 18 who could squat as much as Lewis could. This guy was, he was a specimen as a 17, 18-year-old. So, of course, when he got to college and started filling out, you could imagine how big this guy got. Well, he decided to become a personal trainer, went to college for physical something, I don't know, right? Anatomy, physiology, something like that, probably. And he continued working out. I used to see him at the gym all the time. I changed gyms and went to one that's cheaper. He's at the good gym because he's an unbelievable lifter and he's training all these people. So a couple of years ago, it's 2 years ago, I saw on social media that he was preparing for a bodybuilding competition, which I thought was, pretty amazing. I mean, that's a lot to take on. And the bodybuilding competition was 2 years away. It was 2 years away. Now, I would open up Instagram or see him every once in a while in and around our community and ask him about it. And he's training, right? He's training. I mean, he, for 2 years, this is amazing, tracked every calorie, right? Every kind of calorie, not even just the total, right? He's eating very specific things. He's doing it clean, by the way. He's measuring sleep. I mean, every rep is getting counted, every outcome, everything. But here's what struck me the most about Lewis, especially as a younger guy, right? I mean, yeah, he was evaluating his progress and all that every week, right? But what was most, just to me, fantastic is that he was also kind of evaluating his commitment every week. Not just the progress, not just the reps, not just the chicken that he was eating, right? But his commitment to it. And his results were being measured over months and years, not days. I mean, if you've ever worked out before, you understand that. You don't, go to the gym and do chest and tries, and the next day you're just massive. I mean, it takes years of consistency. And that's an interesting mindset, Now, just quick caveat, Lewis competed and won his division, and it took 2 years for him to get there. That's a leadership mindset. It's a principle. And for us as ministry leaders, I think it's something that we should take note of, not because a church is a gym, right? But because spiritual formation, leadership alignment, culture changes and adaptation, those things work really kind of the same way as Lewis in the gym, right? Healthy change requires patience. Healthy evaluation requires time. Healthy leadership requires, and I love this word, stick-to-itiveness. That's what it takes. We've got to be kind of a leader who's willing to stick to it long enough to really know if our new model, our new approach, if it's working. So if you feel like you are more of a reactive leader, if you feel like maybe you have a tendency not to stick to things long enough to really know if it's working, let me just give you kind of a 3-step rhythm that I have taught pastors all over the, world, I guess, mostly in the US, but a 3-step rhythm. And this rhythm, it's kind of produces real measurable results if you follow it. You got to follow it, okay? 3-step rhythm. Here's the first thing. You got to diagnose the reality, okay? You can't just evaluate or diagnose your feelings, your fears, what we think is happening, okay? You got to diagnose what's really happening. Look at your actual attendance patterns. Look at your engagement markers, your community data, your volunteer capacity, your next step momentum. That's a huge one, right? Good decisions come from honest data. So you look at the reality of what's happening and don't make excuses for it. Churches are notorious for this. We are good news organizations. So when the metrics are good, we celebrate. When they're bad, we make excuses. Like, don't say, well, it was a rainy day or last year we had a snow. Okay, listen, I get it. But over time, all of those anomalies, the data weeds them out. So don't make excuses for the reality. Just be honest with yourself. What's really happening? Number 2, with all of that in mind, design a ministry model for your church, your mission, your community with great intention. You have to be intentional. Don't just borrow someone else's model. Don't copy the church down the street, okay? Don't default to doing what we've always done. You cannot do that. You have to design something that fits your people in your community at this moment in time with your mission in mind. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be purposeful. You can perfect it over time, but you got to start with intention, with great purpose. Now, here's the third thing. Implement and stick with it. Implement the new thing, stick with it long enough to actually truly evaluate the reality of it. And this is where I just think too many pastors lose the plot, right? If you abandon a strategy after 2 Sundays, you're not evaluating it. You're just reacting to something. Your people, they need time to adjust. Your team needs time to align around the new idea. Your model needs time to kind of familiarize itself in the church. Like your metrics, they need time to stabilize. Like you can adjust along the way, and you should. You can slightly change some things as you learn through length over time, but only kind of tiny tweaks. You can't make any wholesale changes. I mean, as a rule, I would say give it 90, maybe even 180 days before drawing any actual conclusions. And when you do this, something incredible happens. The pressure lifts, your team begins to steady, your church starts to move in the same direction at the same time, and suddenly, right, your leadership feels purposeful again. Let me give you an example of, how easy this is to not get it right. One of the things that I have developed is a funding framework. We call it the funding funnel that funds your church. We have 5 different kinds of givers in your church. Everybody does. And the first category are non-givers. And unfortunately, they're probably the largest category. They don't give for some very specific reasons. They don't really trust the church. They don't trust giving. Maybe they're just greedy, right? I mean, there's all sorts of things, but trust is kind of the biggest issue. So how do you help a person who doesn't trust the church, not just your church, maybe even the church, who has had bad giving experiences, who's never been taught to give? So there's a trust gap there with you, with God, with church, with all the things. How do you get a person who feels that way to begin giving? Well, the answer is not a series on tithing. That doesn't help move the needle for that person. So we got to create an opportunity for them to give. So in my framework, we create some on-ramps for generosity that are very easy, low-hanging fruit, that engage emotion as well as very practical utilization. My favorite example of this is every month doing a $4 for the community on the 4th Sunday of the month. Very simple. We ask everybody in the local church, everybody in the church to give $4 on the 4th Sunday. We make a big deal. We call it our 4 Sunday. I don't know if you've read Jeff Henderson's book, Know What You Are For. Jeff's a very close friend of mine. That book is phenomenal. It has changed the world. You see 4 stuff everywhere. That's all Jeff's. So his idea to be for the community, I love it. It started with him at Gwinnett Church being for Gwinnett. So I took that idea and just added a practical piece to it. So on the 4th Sunday, let's say you are, in Buckhead in Atlanta. You are for Buckhead on the 4th Sunday. Now you're for Buckhead 365 days a year, but on the 4th Sunday, you put banners up. Your volunteers are wearing 4 T-shirts, and you celebrate one organization outside of your church. You ask everybody, 100% participation, to give $4. They can give more if they want, but $4 to that organization through your church. They they write a check, they go online, they give to your church, they choose the drop down for, Buckhead, for whatever you are. And you say, every dollar you give today to this For campaign is going to the homeless ministry, the food pantry, the crisis pregnancy center, whatever it is you're celebrating and highlighting that day, right? Well, here's what you've just done. You just gave non-givers an opportunity to give. You just gave everybody an opportunity to give to something that's very practical and tangible and created some emotion around it. It's also only $4. It's really easy to do, right? So it's low-hanging fruit. Everybody can do that. So here's what's going to happen if you do it. You're going to have a lot of people who have never given to your church before say, I can do that because it's not supporting the church, right? 100% of the proceeds, you're going to cover the credit card fees. There's no overhead. It's all going to a ministry or in the organization, in an organization in your community that we all care about, right? So it's so easy to get a non-giver to engage this way, right? So let's say that you do that. In fact, I've got a couple churches now that have just recently taken up this framework and this platform. I've got some that have been doing it for 4 years, and the results have been ridiculously good. However, let's say that you were to try to do this. You do it 1 month and you have some success. Let's say, in your church of 200, that maybe 6 people give for the very first time. They've never given to your church before. Now you just identified 6 people who have taken a step. You can follow up with them with an email nurture sequence, and my framework teaches all this. But you have an opportunity with this person to move them to category 2, right? Now they're going to go to category 3. It's pretty cool. However, let's say you do it once and you have 6 people. For you, 6 people doesn't seem like a lot. You were hoping for 40 and you got 6. So you go, well, this isn't working, and you abandon it. Okay, that's crazy, right? You did it one time. How do you know if the $4 for the community is actually a mechanism, a generosity journey that could work and move people along a discipleship pathway? Well, I'll tell you this, it takes more than 1 month. You may have to do it 3 or 4 or 5, 6 times to really know if it's working and really measure the data. Again, I could belabor that a lot more, but you get the point, right? So here's your intentional next step. Pick one area, okay, not 5, just pick one area of your church, right? Choose 1 or 2 success metrics, that's it, not 20, and commit to 90 days with no changes to the new idea. 90 days. You don't change it. You implement it exactly the way that you decided up front. And tell your team, communicate the plan, track all those metrics, and let time do what it does best. Okay? Great leadership, right, isn't about constant innovation. It's about committed, intentional stewardship. Sometimes that does mean innovation. Sometimes it means stick-to-itiveness so that you can truly find out what's actually happening. If you would like some support on this, if you want more clarity, more pressure relief, and if you want somebody in your corner helping you diagnose reality, designing a better system, and implementing it, just reach out to me. I'd love to help. Go to gavinadams.com. You can learn more about all the things I do there. And if you want to hear more about that funding framework, I would definitely love to chat with you about that. In January 2026, okay, this is a December conversation we're having now. In January of 2026, I have a leadership lab on the funding funnel framework. I'd love for you to be a part of that if you're interested. Again, all of that information can be found at gavinadams.com.